Alright guys, so today we're here with Lee, one of my students here, and basically he's went through the program and this guy was extremely committed, right? He watched every single videos. We have three different courses and he watched every single one of them within the first few weeks, and he basically understood everything from the beginning, and now he's completely free from porn, masturbation and lust. So we're really gonna just talk over like how he managed to do so, how where he was before, where he's now, and what helped him really just quit for good within such a quick time frame. So let us know more about you.
So yeah, pretty much the situation I was in for like around 2 years, I just I was introduced to like easy peasy method, I'd say in April of 2022, and from there I was reading the book trying to quit, and I had some moderate success. Like I would be able to quit within not use porn or do PMO for 1 to 2 weeks often, but then I'd go back into it, and when I used PMO, I would like reread the book, had moderate success, and then go back into it, reread the book, and this happened like 15 times
Yeah,
throughout
same thing
like
for me, man.
a year or two, I'd say, probably a year, and then in 2024, I think. Either
Last year.
late 2023 or 2024, I would say I discovered the freedom model, and it helped more, but in a sense, it was unrelated to what they were actually like to my problem specifically, because as you know, the freedom model talks about drugs and alcohol and the concept of addiction. So it's helpful in the addiction sort of thing to remove your mind from the addiction mindset. But in regards to PMO and everything, it is hard to really apply that to a PMO issue, and it really was confusing for me until in the fall of last year, they released their PMO book, and it was really helpful, I'd say, in like around 10 to 14 days. When I initially first read it, I felt like I was free, like finally, wow, everything is amazing. I'm free. Life feels great again. But eventually, for some reason, I fell back into it, and I tried to read the book again. Now, it is a long book. I remember when I first read it, I just straight up spent like a week in my house just like really focusing on it because it's like over 600 pages.
Yeah.
So I spent like a lot of time and a lot of focus really reading it the first time, and I did reread it the second time, but at the same time when I did do that, still I wasn't free, and I didn't want to go into the same place that I was with the easy peasy method, in which I would fail, reread it, and then have some moderate success, fail, etc., etc. And the easy peasy, not easy peasy, the freedom model is definitely much better than the easy peasy, I would say, but still, it doesn't, at the very least as of right now, although it's very useful and I think probably a lot of people can quit, it still really didn't go into my subconscious mind and subconsciously made me change or change my desire for PMO, or make it me view it differently. And I say I really didn't encounter any of that until I stumbled upon your courses and your book. And I'd say that your book is definitely much better than the Freedom Model, the Freedom Model PMO book to be specific.
Yeah. Okay.
hmm
Interesting. So just like to quickly recap, like for how many years though has it been that you've been like actively trying to quit? You know, reading Easy Peasy, reading the Freedom Model, just overall trying to do NoFap.
I would say maybe 2 years and
2 years.
6 months. Like okay, wait, October, November, December, January. So like 2 years and like a third of a year,
Yep. Okay.
I could say. Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. Now, you said something about the subconscious and how it helped you like quit also like on the subconscious level, right? And that's what, based on our last calls that we had, right? You always said like it's weird. It's just like I don't even want to do it anymore on a subconscious level, not even like just on a conscious level, but on a subconscious level. Now, can you explain exactly now that you're without porn, masturbation, lust, like how's your life different and what exactly like happened? Like, how do you feel without those things right now?
So I could say what happened is that with your videos, although I wasn't always 100% of the time consciously focusing on what is being said, but I think your words and how you explain it, I was hearing it subconsciously and like things started to make sense even though I wasn't really aware of it, that the way you explain things and the way you the courses just seeped into my subconscious mind, and anything, any desire, any need, urge, yada yada yada, that I would previously have for porn just like disappeared, and it just like changed instead of, and it's mainly instead of having a method, I guess you could say subconsciously I would have insights or realizations in which that would just completely change me into not only being free from PMO, but like being able to control my sexual energy, so to speak. Because like recently, yeah, for about I say a week, like a week or 2 weeks, I'm able to just completely control it. And if I want to be turned on or aroused, I can with my mind, like be turned on or aroused.
Yeah,
And
decide soon.
in some case, I would have habitual thoughts
Yeah.
and it would turn on or arouse me, but that's like no excuse. I don't see any point, and that's obviously no excuse to go into PMO. And then like I could just go like previously, it was hard for me to like go back into the state in which you could say, I unleashed Pandora's box,
Mm-hmm.
and then I closed Pandora's box, and it would be like nothing happened. Like that was previously basically impossible for me, but ever since like really watching your course, I'm able to close Pandora's box, and it would be completely fine with me, and it would be as if it was never open, pretty much.
Yeah, so it's
So
like,
that's what I would say.
yeah, it's kind of like effortless in that sense.
Exactly.
But one thing which you mentioned here, which is very interesting for the people that are watching this to understand, is we're not, removing the sexual drive of our students. Like, when we coach people, we have over 10 hours of videos now with the courses, and there's more being added
Hmm.
every month or every few months. And so with those videos that you watch, right, one of the things that you realize obviously is, we're now removing your ability to have that libido, your ability to really turn yourself on if you want, whether that be with a woman in the future or whether that be by yourself, right? Instead, we're making you realize that you have full control over it, and you can decide to interpret, redirect, suppress that desire in any way you want, right? Meaning, for example, I can think, well, okay, I want to be with women, but that doesn't translate to porn or masturbation. I have no desire for porn or masturbation, but I have an innate desire for women, right? Or even for intercourse, right? And so that's a huge thing, which I'm pretty sure helped you, right? When it comes to realizations. Now, when it comes to like the doubts that you had like before joining the mentorship, a lot of people, for example, right, they have that rational fear, okay? Like, for example, they manage to go a few weeks or a few months without porn or masturbation, doing easy peasy, for example. I was in that same boat as you, right? Reading easy peasy, reading these other books, or trying these different techniques where it's like you manage to just be motivated and go a few weeks, a few months without it, but then you come back, and so that it creates that rational fear that, like, oh, even if I try something new, even if I try this mentorship, or even if I try this new technique, or even if I try going to the root cause, even if I read the Effortless method book, it's not really going to work out because I'm going to do the same thing, right? Just like come back to it eventually. What would you say overall? Like, what were your doubts before joining, and how did the program and the mentorship clear them?
I would say you do have a point there in which I was like concerned thinking that if I would invest this like amount of money or this amount of time and it would still not work for me. Like that was something I was concerned about.
Yeah.
And to like if I'm gonna be completely honest, the first time I really watched like all the courses, I still like PM mode I think twice. But then as I began to rewatch them, understand them better, and it seeped into my subconscious mind, it just completely disappeared. And in terms of dealing with the rational fear, I would say that it's cliche to say, but I guess if you have skin in the game, aka money in the table, that you would be more committed. But I've recently realized it's not necessarily like putting money or having skin in the game in that way, but more so how painful is this PMO problem for you really? Because for me, I would say that for the past 2 years, it's been really painful thing, and although I don't really believe it as much, and maybe it's because I'm free from it, but I used to have a belief that it would basically be nearly impossible for me to really be successful in anything, do or even exercise, workout, etc., unless I knew for a fact that I would be free from PMO. And ironically enough, yesterday I did start exercising.
Yeah.
So, um,
Awesome, man.
yeah,
You didn't
but
even tell me about that.
for sure, I would say you if you have like that rational fear and it is something painful for you, something to like really overcome it, I would say is like thinking that you really have nothing to lose. Because if I'm going to be quite honest, like obviously the mentorship does cost money, but at the same time, I know I could always get that money back. However, those 2 years I tried quitting for PMO, I will never get those years back. And, it's something that I saw, this is worth the risk. If it's really going to help me overcome PMO, and it did, it really is going to be worth the money. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course, and that's the thing, right? It's like if you manage to quit porn, we also talk about like the objective benefits. You have more time, you have more mental energy, and you have more attention focus. And so if you use those things, just like for example, for exercising, as you said, you just started yesterday, or for
Hmm.
anything that means something to you. For example, that might be a business, that might be a career, that might be a relationship. Well, once you really use that time, energy, and mental focus, you can achieve way much more that is worth way more than the investment that is required for the mentorship at the current moment, right? Um,
Exactly.
and another thing I wanted to touch upon based on what you said, which I'm kind of like forgetting about at the
Mhm.
moment. Um, you said so basically in the beginning you managed to you watch all of the videos, right, or a good part of them, and then you PMO like a few times, right, and that is actually completely normal. So let me explain to you something, to you guys, right? When you start something, right, oftentimes a lot of people think, we can quit cold turkey, and the reality is physically you can't quit cold turkey, okay? Like objectively you can just say, you know what, I'm not going to do it, and never do it, of course. But here's the thing, sometimes we have been like for so long in the game of no fap, in the game of easy peasy, believing all of these like, false ideologies, that it's hard to even let go of those things. And sometimes that might make you not necessarily like cause and effect, but it might influence you to go back to PMO a few times. But then you realize, and this is the thing, a lot of people make this mistake afterwards, whether they're reading the freedom model, whether they're reading easy peasy, whether they're trying something new in terms of techniques or methods. A big mistake people make is, oh, I just PMO'd once, that means it doesn't work out, and let me be in fear and worry and just like give up on this, or try to find a new answer. But it's like, no, that might be a part of the process, to be honest. If it's been a part of your life for so long, like, just I always give this example to my students. When I left video games after playing video games for like years, for even before starting to watch porn, I was playing video games for up to 16 hours a day sometimes, in summer break, right? I know you, Lee, you did too, right? Play a lot of video games in the past, right? So you
Yeah, for
relate to
sure.
this. And so when I left video games, it wasn't like boom, cold turkey, even though it was effortless to me. I still went and played video games like a few times in the beginning, and then I just realized actually this is not worth it, and my goals and whatever I wanted to pursue meant way more, and I moved on. I'm just saying this to say that if you, for example, PMO on your own journey like once or twice in the beginning when you're trying something new, it doesn't mean it doesn't work, okay? Because if you go about it that way, then of course nothing is going to work, right? What was like your favorite part about the mentorship, or just overall about quitting
Ooh.
porn?
It, Again, it's hard to really and favorite part about quitting porn is that I had more time, energy, and now I could be actually able to focus on my pursuits and ambitions that I've wanted to do for years.
Yep.
And in terms of like favorite part of the course, it's hard to really remember because for most of it, it really happens subconsciously rather
Yeah.
than consciously. I would say the main thing that a lot of people, I guess, might either go through or something that would really help is mainly so you first remove the self-image of the addict,
Yep.
but I'd say oh okay, actually no, you do this in regards to building a vision about like how you now want your life to be. I would say that now forms in in your subconscious mind a new self-image of who you do actually want to be and the
Yep.
kind of person you want to be in the future. It's going to be obviously someone who doesn't PMO, but also someone who works out, exercises, eats healthy, yada yada yada. Or even if not that, someone who really like works on their business 12 hours a day. And really building up that self-image is something very, very helpful to a lot of people because they get into this, and that was definitely for me, that I got into this self-image of, oh, I would always be an addict or I would never be free from PMO, and this is basically my fate, like no matter how hard I try. But something that really the freedom model or easy peasy, I've only seen like you really focus on is they break down the self-image of the addict, but they don't build up a new self-image.
Yeah.
And so when people really don't have a self-image, they go back to the one that they're familiar with, that they know, instead of a new self-image, a new vision that they could build of them actually living their life however they want and being free from PMO entirely, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's like something which sounds cliche and kind of cringe. Just build a vision of yourself
Yeah.
of like when you're going to be successful or the type of person you want to be. But the reality is it works. Like it works 100%. I always give this analogy of if you live your life without a Google map or without like an end destination, you're always going to come back to your own, right? What is comfortable to you. If you decide to adventure yourself in order to get to that, to somewhere else, another destination, and there's obstacles, there's challenges, you're just going to come back home where it's comfortable, you know? Your home is basically, I mean, it means like the old version of you or the current version of you, right? But when we have a clear, okay, like a vision, we have a clear end destination with, directions and everything. It's just like you want to move that way and you naturally move that way, subconsciously move that way. And any challenges or obstacles that occurs in the process, you're just willing to overcome them anyways. And they're way easier to overcome. So thank you, Lee, for this interview. Thank you for sharing your journey. I hope this really just gives hopes and inspiration to other people that are trying to quit. So I'll leave you guys here and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.